Alright, today we're going to be talking about the gaming performance of the M4 iPad Pros. And we're going to see if game mode on iPadOS 18 is really helping or hurting your gaming performance. This Penstar tablet that I just recently received is going to be what I'm referencing for my notes today. More on this tablet shortly. More on a lot of things on this channel shortly. So be subscribed for more. So this is basically the setup of the test. So we're going to be watching both the 11-inch and the 13-inch iPad Pro do 2 hours of gaming, starting with both of them running a quick benchmark from 3D Mark. I set a charge limit on both of them to 80% because I wanted to measure the battery drain a little bit more accurately. From previous battery tests I've done, it seems like from 100 to 80% is actually like a slower drain, and then after 80%, the percentages drop a lot quicker. And a lot of people said that Apple tends to skew that 100% marker and hold it a little bit longer than is technically accurate. So I opted to start at 80% instead of 100. So the way I ran this test was I did everything on the 11-inch first for 2 hours, then I did everything on the 13-inch iPad Pro. But how I'm going to show it to you guys is I'm going to keep cutting back and forth between them. But in reality, this was ran all at once for 2 hours for each device. So starting off with the 11-inch iPad Pro with the 3D Mark test, I decided to do the Solar Bay Unlimited test, as that benchmark actually supports ray tracing, and so do the new iPads. This isn't the stress test or anything like that, so it was a quick, maybe 2-minute long test, and there was no battery drain. So the iPad ended up still being at 80% after this test. Its overall score was 151.30, and the average frame rate was 57.5. So very solid score for Solar Bay Unlimited, and that's to be expected. These are the M4 iPad Pros after all, and they are very powerful for such small and thin devices. So how did the 13-inch do on the Solar Bay Unlimited test? Well, we can see that it actually did better in its overall score with 154.85 and 58.9 for its average frame rate. And the test says it had no battery drain, which is awesome. But I checked the battery basically immediately after and was only at 78%. So it made the iPad still drain 2% battery anyway. So slightly better scores, but seems like maybe more battery drain. We'll see if that stays consistent. So now we come to the real world testing. And the first game you're gonna see that we play is Real Racing 3 from EA. And I think of this as a really good mobile game test, where this one's not something that you can go into the settings and max out graphics. It doesn't even really have a graphics portion in settings, but it still has relatively good graphics and a lot of things it's processing, but it's still a pretty common mobile game experience. So this is your more average, a little more casual mobile gamer, and to see if this causes any problems with the iPads and how much battery you're going to drain for a game like this. So the first hour is going to be this game, and the first half an hour of this game we're going to have no Bluetooth controller, and the second half an hour we're going to have Bluetooth controller connected and my AirPods Pro connected. During every test with the 11-inch iPad Pro, I'm also going to keep game mode on, which is only if you're on the iPadOS 18 beta, which is about to be public now. So I figured it's good that I include that in this test because game mode is going to be integrated into your software in no time. So we're going to speed past this because no one really wants to see my racing skills. And basically the conclusion of this is there is 4% battery that was drained from this iPad, meaning it was now at 76%. And there was no drop frames, no dimming, and when I touched the device, it wasn't hot or anything like that. Very cool to the touch, basically unfazed. So now we're gonna do that exact same test, but with the 13-inch iPad Pro. And remember, the key difference here is that the 13-inch does not have game mode turned on. Otherwise, every other setting is the same besides the size, and I don't really have any background apps running. So theoretically, not having game mode on shouldn't change a whole lot. But we're gonna find out. So again, no dimming, no overheating, no drop frames. It did crash at about 23 minutes into the test. And then I booted it back up again and it worked just fine. I don't know what that was and why I did it, but it did it. So we'll see if that keeps happening with this 13-inch or not. And the battery also drained 4% on the 13-inch, but it had that extra 2% at the beginning, so the battery is overall at 74%. All right, moving right along, we're gonna go back to the 11-inch and we're gonna add a controller this time for the next half an hour and see how that affects things. So this time we had a 7% battery drain. So it added 3% battery drain with these Bluetooth accessories attached. And again, no dimming, no drop frames, no device heat. So now the battery's at 69%. And the Bluetooth latency was great, had no issue there. I could not tell any kind of delay from the controller or the headphones. So seems like game mode's working really well. No lag, no latency that I could notice. But I'm not a big gamer, so that may not really mean a whole lot, but again, from what I could tell, it wasn't there. So going back to the 13-inch with the same test, I actually didn't really notice any latency here as well, even with game mode turned off. So I don't really know what game mode's actually doing here. And this only drained 5% of the battery, which is 2% better than the 11-inch. I wonder if that has to do with game mode, or maybe the 13-inch is slightly more efficient, but I kind of feel like game mode might be the culprit here. So now they're tied up at 69%, and this time there was no crash or anything like that. It went really well. And again, I didn't really notice any latency even with game mode turned off. So now for the next hour, we're gonna do Call of Duty Mobile. And I picked this one because you can actually adjust the frame rate and the graphics, and you can put the settings pretty stinking high. So I wanted this one to be more taxing on the devices themselves. So again, starting with the 11-inch, this time with no controller for the first half an hour, and game mode turned on. After this half an hour, we had 13% of the battery drained. So this is definitely more taxing on the device than the previous game. So now the battery's at 56% on the 11-inch, and still I haven't noticed a single drop frame, any dimming or anything like that, and the device is cool to the touch. Really quick, I just want to show you what the graphic settings were set to. They're at very high for graphic quality, because it's the highest I could put it at with keeping the frame rate at ultra and all the way up to 120 for the adjustment, because basically I just wanted the frame rate to be as fast as possible, because honestly that helps my performance more than a little bit better graphic rendering. And the graphic style was at dynamic. Then moving to the 13-inch with the exact same graphic settings, everything was running smoothly, no dimming, no drop frames or overheating, but I got a little sucked into the game. I'm not going to be on it. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not gonna lie to you. But honestly, I got sucked into the game. So I went like 7 minutes over what I was supposed to go. So it went down 15% this time. It did go down more than the 11-inch, but I think probably that has mostly to do with the fact that I went 7 minutes over. So if I cut it off at the exact same time, it probably would have ended at 13% battery, to be honest. But I'll make the next Call of Duty test on the 13-inch a little bit shorter, so that way it kind of balances itself out to the best I can. I really just didn't feel like redoing that entire test just for about 7 minutes over. So sorry about that. That was totally on me. But with me just slightly shortening the next test, it should get the basic idea across. So now the 13-inch is at 54% battery, so it is a little bit lower than the 11-inch at this point. We got one last half an hour to go. So playing Call of Duty with my controller and AirPods Pro connected, with game mode turned on, drained 16% of the battery. So again, it added about 3%. So that might just be the drain on your battery when having a couple Bluetooth devices connected for half an hour. It might just be about 3% drain, at least when you got game mode turned on. And again, same graphics quality, no drop frame, no dimming. The device was slightly warm at this point, but this is at the very end of the 2 hours, so I can very easily forgive that. I've had this thing get way warmer when taking notes in Apple Notes for a half an hour. So these games run very well on the iPad. But yes, it officially ended at 40% battery. So now for the 13-inch, this test was really interesting. So I did cut it a few minutes short, but it only drained 8% of the battery with the controller and the headphones connected. So even if I went to the full 30 minutes and kind of switched around the percentage a little bit, this is probably more like 10%, and the other one was probably more like 13% if it was a bit more properly done. But still, this is less than when I didn't have the controllers connected. Now, maybe you could make an argument that depending on how many games I was able to fit in might have changed things, or I don't know, but I was playing the game for that amount of time with the same settings. So very interesting stuff there. But yeah, now the 13-inch iPad Pro is ahead of the 11-inch, and it ends with 46% battery remaining on the device. And I truly did not notice any more Bluetooth lag with game mode turned off. In fact, it just seems to be kind of saving me battery life, and I don't really know why. I truly don't. It should be improving performance of the game itself, and maybe it is, but maybe these games just aren't taxing enough still to really take advantage of game mode. I don't know. It might be more for those console level games that they're bringing to the iPad. But unfortunately, most of the console level games are just very much not my thing, or things I just seriously can't stand playing. So I didn't test any of those. Sorry if you're looking forward to that, but this is what I had to work with, and this is what I used. So yeah, after 2 hours of gameplay, the 11-inch iPad Pro lost 40% of battery, and it got slightly warm, but not really that overheated at all. It's gotten way warmer in less time doing note taking on Apple Notes. And for the 13-inch, after 2 hours, it lost 34% and didn't feel warm at all. I think the bit of warmth probably was just the fact that the 11-inch is smaller, and this is the same reason why I think it got a little bit worse of score in 3D Mark. It's just not quite as thermally efficient as the 13-inch. I actually ran a stress test version on my size comparison video if you want to check that out. And again, the 13-inch won that a little bit too. So I do think the 11-inch is probably just not quite as thermally efficient, but I actually have a feeling that the reason for the bigger battery drain on the 11-inch actually has to do with game mode. This is because game mode is trying to push more power to the chip, more power to Bluetooth, so there's lower latency, everything like that, and taking up more battery life. But yeah, I think I had someone ask me if losing about 34% battery of playing a game for a couple hours was normal, and I'd say yeah, it looks like it is, at least from my testing. This is what it seems to be. Anyway, guys, I hope this really helped you. Again, I'm not really a gamer. I wish I could say I was, but I'm just so not. I actually didn't really even enjoy playing these games that much. It's just been so long since I've really wanted to play a video game, and they're just not the same to me anymore. I used to totally be into them, but I don't know why. I just can't get into them as much as I used to. So if you had to see any terrible gameplay strategies or anything like that, I apologize. But hopefully this gave you a pretty good indication of what you can expect from your iPad Pro when playing mobile games. I also noticed that I performed on the games way worse when having the controller connected. I did so much better with the touch controls, which is kind of weird to me. But hey, just something to consider. Maybe just try using the touch controls in some of these games. You might even be better than you think. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and comment below what games you play on your iPad, and if this is basically what you've been seeing on your M4 iPad Pro as well. My goal on this channel is to make you guys actually informative videos. So hopefully you learned something from this. If you didn't, let me know that in the comments too. I want to improve. If you thought watching this video was a waste of your time, I seriously want to know that. I will take the criticism. I want to do my best at this for you. I don't want any of my videos to just be like one of everyone else's out there. I want there to be something unique that you come to every single time you watch one of my videos. If you're curious about any of the equipment I use, it's all gonna be linked in the description below. Like I was mentioning, I have a bunch more reviews coming. One for this tablet that was sent to me. Very, very interesting e-ink tablet right here. I'm gonna be reviewing the Remarkable Paper Pro when I get that in. I want to be reviewing the new iPhones when they get in as well. And I got some more cases for the M4 iPad Pro I'm going to be reviewing. So stay tuned because there's plenty more coming, and be subscribed for that. And as always, guys, have a great rest of your day.